something I did at the University of Illinois where our first semester freshman orientation class wasn't taught by faculty. It was taught by upper level students. For me, it was taught by my upper level honor students. And what that did is, okay, let's be blunt, it saved resources, right? I wasn't paying faculty, and resources aren't necessarily as readily available as we would like. But it did a couple other things. It helped with retention because it gave the upper level students ownership and reasons to be involved and engaged. And it gave the freshmen a connection with people that weren't necessarily their mentors, because we did have a mentoring program as well, but a connection that wasn't white faculty that would help them out. Now, we make sure that when we train these students that they understand they are not counselors. And that's critically important, that they knew that anything that was told to them, they couldn't be kept in confidence. They needed to let us know we would handle the issues. And actually, I have a great success story about a student. One of my honors interns came to me and said, there's a student that I think we're going to lose. She's really, really stressing out. I don't think she's going to succeed. I think she's going to drop out of the university. And it was ironically my first semester at the University of Illinois. So the student came in. Her name is Rachel Bates. I tell the story about her. She knows I tell about her. And she admitted, and it was a little bit like being called into the principal's office, right? Here I am, the associate director, and I'm calling her, why? And I said, well, I'm just concerned. There's some things that, we're concerned about what's going on with you. And she looked at me, she's like, well, everyone else just gets it. This is so easy for everyone else, and it's not easy for me, and I just don't fit in, and I just don't belong. And I said, Rachel, not everyone else gets it. There are people that are better at faking it than you are, but not everyone gets it, and this is a big place. And it's easy to feel lost, and it's easy to be scared, and it's easy to be lonely, even if you're surrounded by all these people. Well, Ray, as I now call her, traveled with me to the National Collegiate Honors Council conferences. She graduated with a 4.0 from the University of Illinois and is in a graduate program in sustainability, which she got involved with because my husband was involved with sustainability on campus, both at Grand Valley and the University of Illinois. So we got her in this wonderful pipeline and is doing incredibly well because she was willing to come and admit something. And I think honors should be a safe space where we explore things in teaching and learning. And being mindful of our pedagogy, are we doing things to the best of our ability? Just because this is the way we've taught this class for 10 years, are we really as effective as we should be? Let's take some risks. Let's have some fun in the classroom. Okay? And I see it as a comprehensive experience pairing extraordinary curriculum with transformative co-curricular and extracurricular opportunities. Okay. I like this because I think it's very important when we talk about honors and we talk about the kind of students and faculty that are attracted to honors. Failure. Horrible. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I just failed. Failure is not an end point. Giving students and faculty and staff permission to not be perfect and to go and try some things and reevaluate. I mean, this room would look very different right now if Thomas Edison would have quit after not succeeding. Okay. Exemplar in content. One thing we may want to look at is going and taking the AAC&U's essential learning outcomes to the honors experiences. Do students understand the value of the experience they're having? We know why we want them to do these things, but do they get it? So this is one thing we did at the University of Illinois so students could then articulate the value of their honors education. Just because we tell them it's good for them, do they really understand? And reaching out and doing some creative pairings. I've talked a little bit today about the fact that I'm friends with a gentleman by the name of J.D. Bowers. When I was at the University of Illinois, he was at Northern Illinois. He's now the Dean of Honors at Mizzou. But he is an expert in genocide. My PhD is in Holocaust fiction. We would love to collaborate on a hybrid class where where 1 week he's in the room with his class in an environment like this and he's lecturing at them and virtually to my class. The next time we switch it and I get to be the one prattling at the students. And then we go and we travel together, where we go and the students get to experience. We go study abroad, go to the Netherlands and some other places. So that kind of thing, I think, would be a wonderful addition. And I love this. A distinct program for a distinct you. Students are not one size fits all, especially this generation. So the idea that you're already aware that we need to make sure that we are nimble and adaptable for students and what they're doing. Transformative in experience. I love the idea of giving students the opportunity to take something from idea to action. I talked a little bit about my kids today. I have a 20-year-old son. My youngest is 17. Full disclosure, born female, identifies as a non-binary lesbian. If you are considering me for this position, you need to know who I am. So I'm happy to share with you that fact. I'm very proud of both my children. But they can't at times problem solve their way out of a paper bag. I wish I was exaggerating when I told you that my husband and I were halfway around the world. We were in Australia. We were driving from a little town on the coast called Eden. It's not, I wouldn't recommend going there. Of all the places in Australia, you can skip that one. There's way cooler places. We thought we were going to run out of gas. We were going to Melbourne. Playing the game Name That Roadkill is much more interesting in Australia. But when you see things like, a 6-foot-long, possibly common death adder, very poisonous snake in the middle of the road, and you think you're going to run out of gas, you have no idea where the next gas station is, you haven't seen a car in at least 45 minutes, a little nerve-wracking, and your phone rings. And it's your son who is senior in high school. Mom? Okay. Well, he's calling me. He knows something is desperately wrong. Mom, do you know where the toenail clippers are? I wish I was lying about that. I wish I was making it up. I won't tell you exactly my response to my son. It did have something to do with the cost of the phone call being more than the cost of going to Meijer 3 blocks away and buying new toenail clippers. But letting students see how to go, brainstorm, implement, take something to action. One idea that I'm actually sort of bringing to the NCHC, but I think it could be really, really powerful and transformative in an honors curriculum is something I like to call the Legacy Challenge, where we go out, we talk to community stakeholders, and we say, what issues are you facing? And they bring us real-world problems. And I'm going to use the example of Starbucks, because I happen to have an unhealthy addiction to Starbucks. And let's say what Starbucks tells us is they have this massive problem. They don't know what to do with their coffee grounds. They have no idea. They don't want to put them in landfill. They want to do something more sustainable. And here are the parameters that they have. These are their constraints. This could be any stakeholder in the community. They could be dealing with things, issues of food insecurity, education. I mean, it could be absolutely anything. You know this region better than I, and I wouldn't presume to know who the best community partners would be. If I have the privilege of coming here, I promise I'll find out. But then say, okay, now let's, as freshmen, divide you up into interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary teams. Give you a mentor. You've been given the problem. Now brainstorm. Think about ways to solve the problem, given the parameters. Let's take an example from our friends in business, and then they do a case competition. Because what do high-achieving students hate to do more than anything else? There's 2 things we know they despise. Group work, public speaking, right? Can't say neither one. Let's make them do both. Let's make them do both first semester, okay? So then we have a case competition where the different solutions are pitched to our stakeholders. And they say, okay, this one, these 2, whatever, seem practical and implementable. Then the students get to work on this from idea to action. By the time they graduate, They have gotten boots on the ground, they've implemented this program, and they have come up with a way to ensure its longevity, that it is sustainable, that it is not linked to them, but it can continue. And then when they come back for homecoming, for the 55th and the 60th and the 75th anniversary of NKU, and they are great and grateful alumni, they see their legacy, and they know that while they were here, they had a lasting impact. And that goes to my philanthropic approach. Giving and giving back, letting students know right away that they not only will get things from being involved in honors, but they will also be giving back. And the way we get students involved, you already have an advisory board. Let's take students to the state, the regional, the national conferences and have them bring their ideas back and strengthen honors and the institution as a whole, get them involved in community impact, which I've already talked about. Let's get our alumni involved in a whole bunch of ways. A lot of alumni think the only thing we want from them is money. And let's be honest, I want money. I'm happy to go out with anyone who wants to go out with me, and let's get the money. Okay? But there's other ways to give back. Alumni speaker series, internships with where they work now, having them help with recruiting events, even help pay for recruiting events, which is something that I know they do down at NSU where I am right now. My friend Rich Johnson, who used to be the head of honors at Illinois for the Business College, he takes alumni on the study abroad trips with the students, which is a wonderful, and then of course, I'm not going to overlook money. Making sure that the students understand that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of great strength. I tell my students that they are not supposed to go on this journey that is their education alone. If they were, none of these buildings would be here, and I would be on a beach in Tahiti. But I think that's critically important, especially for high-achieving populations in honors. Sustainability in education and execution. Sustainability is a core value of mine, which is something that really excited me about NKU is your commitment to sustainability. Every one of these things easily can be worked into an honors curriculum. So sustainability in all aspects of the definition of sustainability. The environmental, the cultural, and the economic aspects. Making sure we are very deliberate. And I absolutely love that you have a commitment to sustainability. Multifaceted in perspective. Local to global and then back again. So when we go and we take students on these amazing trips abroad, what do we do with them when they come back? My dream class would be to have a group of students and I say, okay, where in the world do you want to go? Literally, where in the world do you want to go? And let's say they say Paris. And I say, okay, great. How are you going to get there? Make them actually do the research on the cost, the environmental, the cultural, and the economic cost of their trip. So they want to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower. All right, you got to take the elevator or the stairs. What's the cost? But then after they go and we have this wonderful experience abroad, come back and do something. What are they going to do here to offset the damage they have done by taking that trip? But being realistic in cost too. Okay, I would rather, take a sailboat across the ocean. How much time do you have? Where are you going to get the boat? Okay, let's be honest, flying is probably the best way to go. Although I will tell you from personal experience, sailing on the Queen Mary 2 is fabulous. Making sure that we celebrate, that we draw on the celebrations you already do, but let's brag about the things that we are doing and the things that our students are doing. Let's have Twitter want to shut us down because they're sick of us constantly posting about the amazing things that are happening here. I don't know if Twitter does that, I don't pay attention. Let's get some really cool programming. I don't know if you are aware, the University of Queensland, they have a research station physically located on the Great Barrier Reef. Wow, why don't we partner with them? Let's create some opportunities for students. Or we can always go to the dear University of Wales, Aberystwyth, where Prince Charles and I do share this alma mater. And do some research opportunities there. Let's get some wonderful collaborative partnerships that get students exposed to things. Get them more fellowships, more scholarships, more awards, and sing the praises when they do. And always hitting those critically important transferable skills. Making sure that when they leave us, they are much better writers, presenters, divergent thinkers, critical thinkers than they were when they came in. Because we know employers want it, and let's be honest, we want it too. Okay, how do we know that we're successful? Because we have to know, right? Assessment is key. The 3 R's. Anybody want to guess what my 3 R's are? They are not reading, writing, and arithmetic. They are recruit, retain, remember. What do I mean by recruit? Are we getting the students that we want in the classrooms and the community partners that we want? Are we attracting the kinds of people to be involved? Are we retaining them? Are they staying with us to graduation? Are they remembering us? Are they coming back and seeing us? Are they coming back for homecoming? Are they coming back for our annual events? Are they great and grateful? Are they coming to our speaking series? Are they giving us money? Okay. And this is what I want. NKU Honors College, setting the standard for honors and raising the standard for all. And that's my presentation. I think I was probably a little more than 10 minutes, and I apologize.
Well, we can use all the rest of the time. I'm going to let you direct for questions, so people will ask questions and you can pick.
Okay.
I'm Tanya Krause. I am the one tenured core faculty member in the Honors College beginning next semester.
Excellent.
And I'm also a faculty member in the English department. And I was wondering if you could talk a bit, and this, I'm going to give you some parts specifically to address, but particularly about your own experience and preparation that you think is going to serve you, should you be selected for this position, in making the transition from honors program to honors college. And the things I would be particularly interested in hearing you talk about is, first of all, your experiences as a faculty member. From your CV, it looks like you have a wealth of program directing and that kind of experience, but I think that in trying to sort of attract faculty from across the university and get faculty on board with the college, I think that faculty experience and teaching experience means a lot to faculty members. So if you could talk a bit about how your own experiences as a teacher kind of come to bear on the kinds of mentoring that you'll do and those kinds of things. Secondly, in terms of your preparation working with a population of students that tend to be commuter students who work, if not full-time, very close to full-time, who often are in the first generation in their family to go to college. So if you could talk about your experiences there. And then finally, if you could be a bit more concrete about your vision for fundraising.
Okay. So the first part, my experience about honors in general, the transition from a program to a college and then teaching, correct? Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to come back to you and make sure I get the...
Yeah.
So, I've taught 17 different classes. I guess I've got to add that up to 19 now, in 4 different disciplines. They used to call me unfocused, now they call me diverse. And it spins better. And I was really lucky when I was at Grand Valley State, where people would say, hey, we need someone to teach a class on this. Would you be interested? And my PhD is from a college in a university in the UK, and they have a little different take on what it means to have a PhD than we do here. And their take is, you are now an expert researcher. You can therefore become knowledgeable about almost anything. Now, I'm never going to teach a chemistry course. Nobody wants that to happen. But that's given me the opportunity to teach a variety of different things. And the experience that I think is most relevant to this question is the experience that I had as a faculty member teaching for Jeff Chamberlain in the Honors College at Grand Valley State. And he came to me and he said, I want you to teach. I want you to teach our freshman sequence. It's going to be a year long. What do you want it to be about? Don't answer right now. And Jeff knows me well enough to know okay, I want you to go think about this because you like to go think. And I came up with a couple ideas, but the one that I really wanted to do, that I thought would be the most impactful for students, was a class on food. Looking at where food comes from, the consequences of the American diet and waste and excess. Now, as someone who majored in geology, was an environmental geologist for years, an at-home mom, got a master's in classics, a postgrad certificate in English literature, and a PhD specifically in young adult Holocaust fiction, you don't really see food in there. But Jeff had the faith in me to let me go and try this. And it was amazing. And he let me adapt, and he let me do some different things. He let me go and bring in the head of chemistry and have the head of chemistry lecture about alcohol and beer and teach freshman honor students how to make beer. They didn't get to drink it, they got to make it. So then the second semester, he let me do some other things. And one thing he let me do is, I realized early on that these students had no idea how to cook. I mean, I grew up with an at-home mom who cooked everything from scratch. I will tell you that Prego, ragu, any jarred or canned spaghetti sauce, significantly better than my mom's. I didn't realize that spaghetti could be good until I went away to college. But, so the idea that people didn't know how to cook was really strange to me. So he also let me use the honors kitchen. And we would meet every other week before we watched documentaries, and we would cook together. And the deal was they could make anything they wanted as long as it came from scratch. And this was really an eye-opening thing for me because I had done something that it bothers me that I still occasionally do. I made assumptions. I made assumptions that these students would realize that, of course, somebody makes pasta. They didn't know. You know, there's apparently a pasta tree somewhere that you get it. No. And it got this wonderful sense of community going. So then Jeff trusted me enough to let me create this final project where the students paired up. And they created dishes from locally sourced ingredients. And they had to do a poster on the sustainable aspects of their diet. The dish they created. Looking at the culture, the environmental, and the economic implications. He also let me incorporate service learning and volunteerism into this class. We did a lot of things in this class. But this reception, that these students were going to serve these dishes and have their posters on display, was going to be attended by the president of the university, and the provost, and the various deans, and all these, the important critical people from campus. And the students were terrified. They said, "You're going to make us cook? You're going to make us cook for the president?" I said, "No, I'm giving you the opportunity to cook for the president." And my colleague said, you're going to put your reputation, your future, in the hands of your students. And that comment puzzled me. Because at that time I could think of no safer space for my reputation to be in than the hands of my students. But then if you think about it, the head of the Honors College had the faith in me to let me take this incredible risk and showcase the risk it took in me in my pilot position and these freshman students and put them all on display. And it was amazing. It was a remarkable, transformative experience for everyone involved. They talked about the volunteering they did and the things they learned about the classes, and they brought everything together. So for me, regardless of the content of the class, that's what honors education is. It's looking at things deeply and examining them from multiple lenses and engaging in things that you are passionate about and taking risks. And there are so many things that could have happened in that semester that could have just been horrible. But they all went really, really well. And that class is still going on, and it's still the most popular class in honors for freshmen. So that, to me, is how I attract faculty a couple different ways. So when I then went down to the University of Illinois, I thought just logically, if I said, hey, if I give you whatever resources you need, and 25 of the best and brightest students, you'll come teach for me, right? Whatever, your dream class. I thought that actually made sense, because I jumped at the chance. That's not the culture at the University of Illinois. And I was really shocked at this idea that I was being rejected, just out of hand. No, it's easier for me to teach a class of 1,000 students and have my GA do the grading than it is for me to have to do a new course prep for 25 of your students. I didn't understand that. But then I thought about some other things and different opportunities and went to different people and had a different way of motivating faculty. And one thing I did is I got quarter zip, really nice quarter zips, and gave them as a reward. And started conversations about, making sure that if you teach, and this is something I think would be critically important here, if you are involved with honors, how is that counting for promotion and tenure? How is your work for us going to benefit you as well? And I think that that is so important from the faculty perspective. Of, okay, great, you're going to give me 25 students, and I get to teach a class I've always wanted. But if it's not going to count for my promotion and my tenure, and you want me to take risks, and you're saying it's okay for me to fall flat in my face and teach a class where I'm not going to get stellar evaluations, that doesn't necessarily work. But Jeff was able to find a way that if the evaluations weren't stellar, as long as we had a plan for how to address it and strengthen it going forward, it wouldn't be held against. And he made sure that these things counted for promotion and tenure. So making sure that you get in the mindset of the student, but also the faculty. And talking very honestly and openly with the different deans and department chairs. Making sure that honors isn't looked at as another burden. We're already teaching overloads, and now you want us to go teach another class for you. Making sure that it's reciprocal, making sure that we can augment what you're already doing. So I hope I hit the first part. Okay, second part was, will you remind me, I'm sorry?
Teaching our students, working with first-generation students in a commuter environment where perhaps they're not coming back for homecoming,
Right.
or aren't going to do study abroad because they're working, or
And because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
And there's so many pressures on them that they need to go and they need to graduate in 4 years and understand exactly what that degree is going to get them. And that's one thing that the liberal arts, the humanities especially, are really under fire right now. Especially for the families of first generation students. Where the students may decide that they wanted to major in English, but the family doesn't understand what that degree gets them. I understand that if you go and you are pre-med, at the end you're going to go and you're going to be a doctor. I get that. If you're going to the nursing program, you're going to be a nurse. I understand that. But if you're a philosophy major, what does that mean? So being able to make sure that we have a clearly articulated vision and a clearly articulated sense, or a set of, there we go, outcomes. So if you are in the Honors College, these are the outcomes that you will have by the time you leave. These are the transferable skills that we know that employers and graduate schools are looking for. I would really like to work to incorporate more opportunities for things like internships. We know that internships really help students get jobs. There's a wonderful student, she actually shares my birthday, where she is a psychology major. She was going to go on and get a master's or a PhD. She wasn't sure in psychology. Somebody said, hey, why don't you intern at Caterpillar? She's like, oh, all right. You know, I have the space in my schedule. I'll do this internship. She's been now working at Caterpillar for 4 years because they were so impressed with her. And she was impressed with them and got to know them. So it put her on a career path. For first-generation students, more than anyone else, understanding the value and the end game of the education. And that's on us to clearly articulate, not with this idea of, well, you know, it brings these intangibles to you. They need the tangibles. They need to understand. So they need to know that if you take a class in English, you are going to have these skills. They are judged for how they look on a piece of paper. They are. They are judged for how they present themselves, making sure they understand that we are going to hone those skills and give them opportunities they wouldn't get elsewhere to then get them where they want to go. But also help them be able to have those conversations with their parents. Because I'm sure everyone in this room has had the conversation with a student where the parents are saying, you need to study, and no disrespect, it's usually the sciences. You know, you need to be pre-med, but the student, just their heart isn't in pre-med. That's not where they want to be. But they're terrified of letting their parents down. Their parents have invested so much in them, and they don't know what to do. So being able to have that conversation with them and help empower them to go in the direction that's right for them. For some students, it is still staying with that pre-med track, but then they write for the paper. Or they write for other things. They get involved with the TV station or something. But it's listening and really empowering them to understand what the value is and what the end game is. And the last part of your question?
Practical strategies for fundraising and sort of what your ideas about sort of about attracting money to this new honors college would be so that it can grow.
Well, the honors college will be the shiny new thing right now. So people generally love shiny new things. My best way of actually fundraising is to go out and talk to people. It drives me a little nuts, and I've come across this a couple times, where people who are in development, they sort of nickel and dime the donors. We were supposed to meet there's a big donor in Illinois that gave money for scholarships for students. And our development person said, okay, well, I want you to bring your students to this luncheon. Okay, great. Well, she never told us when. So the morning of, she said, okay, well, you know, we're going to have lunch today at 11:30. Well, we reached out to all the students. They were in class. They couldn't make it. So embarrassing on us, yes. But I went to the lunch. My assistant director went to the lunch with me. And the person for development was going to have the donor buy his lunch. Like, no. You know, we would really appreciate buying your lunch. You know, please let us do this for you. And I found that little thing really matters. I ended up with $500,000 from someone because I made it very clear that I was taking them to lunch. They weren't taking me to lunch. Treating people with respect, you know, being honest with what you're asking for. It also helps if you're very specific with what you're asking for. Not dismissing the value of a $10 donation. Going and making it incredibly easy for people to donate. With categories that make sense. You know, for $25, you can buy a book for a student. Let's be realistic, that depends on the discipline. Some books are $400 and $500. But an easy tiered approach that's available online. But going out, meeting with people, having the conversations, hoping that development will help identify people, maybe alumni that haven't given back, that have gone through the honors program who are waiting for something like this, But I really found, for me, the most successful way is to go meet with people and talk to them. And to treat people like people.
My name's Tara Callahan. I'm in the English department. My question is more, our university has recently moved, and I was just looking it up because it's an RCM budget model, so a responsibility-centered management is what the RCM stands for, which I can never remember. Which means that now each of the colleges are sort of managing their own budget, but it also means that they have to sit down at the table and, I hate to say fight over money, but you know, negotiate. That's a better word, negotiate. So the assumption is if we have an honors college, that dean's gonna have to be at the table, but you're gonna be in a different, if you have a position, or whoever is the honors dean is gonna be in a slightly different position, because it's not like a regular college. You don't really, at least at this point, have your own faculty, things like that. So I wonder if do you have experience with an RCM model? That's my first question. Also, and what was your experience, I would say, like, I assume, like, I'm not sure the first place you were at that you said you had the opportunity, for example, to teach the food course?
Grand Valley State.
Right, so I'm not sure what department you were tenured in, but in terms of your home department as a tenured faculty, how you dealt with, like, administration coming down and restricting what you can do.
My home department is English.
Okay.
And so I've dealt with budgets on a variety of different ways. I actually was the founder of a children's museum. And that was really when I honed my ability to fundraise. And that's where I got $500,000 at a luncheon. Because I was very upfront with what I was asking for and why I was asking for it. And the person was someone who everyone hits up for money. But she really valued the fact that I was very targeted, and I told her the impact the money would have on her. So I've been responsible for my own generation of money for different things. At Illinois, I was in a very different position where I was flush with cash because my predecessor never spent any money. And for some reason, the provost's office never took it back. So I felt like I was smog. I inherited this mountain of cash. Well, you know what happened with budgets in the state of Illinois when they didn't have a budget, so it was a very good thing that the former director there before me didn't spend the money, because then the honors program could continue without having major cuts. I'm not sure how they're sitting now. That state it's going to take them a long time to recover. And right now it's very interesting because I don't have a budget. I was told that they wanted to build this wonderful honors college and no unreasonable request would be denied. And I said, okay, what does that mean? And the president at the time was very smooth and just said, what we need you to do is come down and tell us what you need and we will get you whatever you need. Well, he left. And what that actually meant was whatever resources I was spending came out of student lab fees. So it's realizing that if you are in the business of higher education, and I hate to call it a business, but for this point of view it is, if you are not actively involved, if you're in a leadership role and not actively involved with raising money, that's going to come back eventually and bite you. So advocating for, looking at, I would start with talking to the people who are currently in honors. What do they need? What do we need to expand? Do we have any waste? Is there anything that maybe we don't need? I've come up with some initiatives that actually saved a variety of money in weird ways. I did a paperless pilot program where I didn't print anything for classes for 3 years. And the amount of money that was saved in the copying costs. I don't remember, it was thousands of dollars, which may seem little, but when you add that many classes over a period of time, it actually was a significant savings. But to get involved with and say, okay, what do we need? How are we doing this? How do we collaborate? You know, what do the other departments have that maybe we can, and other colleges have that maybe we can share? And just reframing the idea of what are we spending, how are we spending? You know, I said that one way we saved a lot of money was by having that first year experience course taught by upper level students. I taught the class that the upper level students took. So rather than having to pay, I think the college needed a total of 20 people to teach that class. I had 20. I had 20 and then the college had 70, that's how it was. But rather than have to pay that many people, I got to give 3 hours of advanced level honors credit. So being nimble in our approach, being willing to partner and collaborate, and being willing to find new revenue sources. Honors can be a revenue source. It doesn't have to be a resource drainer. But you need to be very careful in what you do and how you do it.
Okay, guys, it is 2 o'clock. And I want to thank our guests. Thank you very much. I need to cut off the questions so quickly. But let's thank her for the time, and then we're going to be dragging you right away to something else. So thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you so very much.